Okay, we are live.
Okay, Rich, you're all set.
Oh, the
Looks like
meeting's
everybody
order.
else has.
First item up to review the minutes from last month's meeting. Or are we doing open first?
We have no guests at all, do we, Jeff or Delene?
I didn't get any emails.
We have, there's Peter and the guest. So does he need to be on the panel? Peter?
Yes.
Okay. So I will move him there. No, other than him, there are no outside guests. So Peter should be coming on shortly as a panelist. Peter, can you hear us? You're on mute. Peter,
You're
can you hear
unmuted
us?
by the host. Is that better?
Yes. Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I don't have any images. I can't see any camera shots.
Are you,
I don't care. I know what you guys look like.
okay. You could also, yeah, I mean, if you want to pull up YouTube on another browser, you can, but as long as you can
No,
hear, I think
as
that's the
long as
most
I have
important
audio.
thing.
There's no show and tell. I'm not going to worry.
Perfect. All right. That is, I think that's everyone.
Okay.
Okay, so on open, I'll just give an arborist update then from the tropical storm Isaias. So what we're currently seeing as a result of the storm, other than the immediate damage from broken trees and limbs and falling on houses, power lines, and roadways, that the after effect of the storm, it was what we call another dry storm, like Sandy, where we had high winds, but we didn't have accompanying rains. So it brought a lot of salt mist onto the property. So a lot of people on the committee may be seeing a lot of trees that are showing signs of salt injury, or people asking about it, which means that the leaves are turning brown. So it's just like what happened with Sandy, except Sandy happened late in the year when all the deciduous trees had shed their leaves. So the damage that showed up from the salt mist, because it wasn't followed by rain to rinse the salt mist off, it sat in the foliage. The salt damage occurred on evergreen trees. So now we're seeing it on deciduous trees because Isaias hit when the leaves are still on the trees. Isaias caused more electrical outages and damage as far as outages than Sandy did. Sandy caused more monetary damage, but because it was accompanied with a lot of tidal surge and flooding, this storm didn't have that. But I think we exceeded power outages in Connecticut by over 100,000 from what I'm hearing, in comparison from Sandy to this most recent one. So we're seeing salt damage on trees now. So people will be asking you about that. Why are the trees turning brown? Why are they dropping leaves? It's from the salt mist that sat on the foliage and didn't get rinsed off. And we're anticipating that the evergreen trees, the damage will show up a bit later because that takes that a little longer to occur. So in case anybody gets asked what's happening with the trees in our region, that will give everybody explanation to tell people when you're conversing with them. I think that's kind of important for the panel to know.
And I was going to do it under other business, but since Rich brought it up at this point, then talking with Chris, Torrey, and Delene, it sounded like we had 208 locations where either city or private trees or limbs were damaged that Public Works had to respond to in various ways. So 208 locations.
So,
We're seeing in the private sector, very much similar to Sandy, is that now post-storm cleanup, or even while post-storm cleanup is still occurring, A lot of people become tree paranoid and they want to cut down big trees because they see damage, and people are requesting to have healthy trees removed now in fear that another storm may bring them down.
Yeah, of course. Hey, Paul, on those 208 locations, was it, is that across all Norwalk? Was it centered in a specific part of Norwalk, or was it fairly evenly spread in Norwalk?
It was pretty much all across the city, but the areas up by Cranberry Park and those areas were really hit hard in that area. There were sections where if you took a look at a picture of the road, it looked like a double yellow line going down the road that led into a forest.
Got it.
But it was pretty much all over. There was a variety of it all over the city, though, from what I understand.
Yeah, I certainly noticed it in shoreline communities.
And with regards to the salt injury, it's more apparent on the southern exposure of the trees because the wind came off the water. So if you go to the northern side of the trees, there's a lot less salt injury because that was the wind exposure side. And all the trees that we saw fell from the south towards the north because of the prevailing winds from the east band of Isaias.
Will that affect the leafing in the spring, or will that not affect it?
It will to some degree because leaves are still manufacturing food for the trees later in the season, so it weakens them a bit, but they will leaf out because the bud set for next year's foliage already set because this storm's late into the season.
Okay.
They will refoliate, even though they'll look kind of shabby going into the fall, but it will stress them and weaken their overall vigor.
It's kind of scary because this is so early in the season and we're on the 9th storm already.
Yeah, we don't know how far the salt mist along the shore, Norwalk, it's extremely apparent.
I know, I've noticed it.
Inland, we're starting to see that salt injury is showing up further and further inland than we anticipated.
Now, the point I was trying to make is that we're only in August. And
The height of the season isn't even.
And we're sort of in the beginning of the hurricane season, and
Yeah.
we're already on the 9th storm, and that usually doesn't occur until October. So
Hang on to your hats. So next item up then, if there's nothing else on new business, we'll go to approving the minutes from last month's meeting. I know Andrew made some amendments already. Any other amendments to be heard?
I think there are a couple of things. One note on page 3 of 5. Last paragraph, I don't know. And West Main Street suggested not planting on streets where there are no curbs versus were no curbs. It's middle of the paragraph to the right.
Okay. Yep.
And then back to bullet point number 3 under Mr. Torrey joined the meeting. I believe they're red oaks going on Belden, not pin. If we ended up with pin, Paul, correct me. It's fine either way.
I'll have to take a quick look and check that, but I thought
I think they were pin oaks.
Yeah, I thought they were pin oaks too.
I mean, they were originally pin. I changed them to red. If they went back to pin, perfectly fine. It's just a matter of public record. Which ones are they? For the meeting minutes.
Pin oaks, but Paul, if you can double check on that.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I can check that.
Either way, it'll work. So the only other thing is we had a discussion about Dunbar Field, and that did not show up in the meeting minutes. Paul, did you pull that out or?
No.
Hmm?
No, I did not.
We had a discussion that Dunbar Field over on Silvermine Avenue was a good candidate for street trees.
Yeah, and I had mentioned
Behind the
during
fire
that-
department?
Yes, and right across the Silvermine side of the fire department, we have one dying oak elm tree there.
There's
We
a
have one
dying
very,
elm.
very misshapen Norway maple. And we've got
Yeah.
two lindens that haven't grown in the 20 years I've been going up the street.
They weren't installed properly.
And there's no reason to even keep them, but you can get 14 trees in there easily along that edge. Now,
And I
Paul
think when
mentioned
we
that
talked-
there's a recreational field resurfacing project going on.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that feels
Why I mentioned that
slated
we
for,
want to plant, because it
So-
is going on, and that will be going on probably next year. And I've talked with Nick Roberts a couple of times about that. So I think I'd mentioned during that meeting last month that we had to be careful what we planted there because of the fact that they may get damaged.
Well, I mean, even if it takes a year, I mean, I think it's important that stretch of Silvermine Avenue could really use trees heavily. And if it's not part of the, surfacing project for the field, I mean, how do we dovetail that? Because it really looks terrible.
We
why
got to
don't we let them resurface the field first and then follow up with the trees when the work's done?
Exactly.
Why isn't it part of the big plan, I guess is what I'm asking. Why isn't it part of the city plan? And if it dovetails, that's fine, but can we conceive of this together?
Yeah, and that's what we'll do.
I mean, so I have no problem, sticking my nose in on the other plan and saying, these are what we like to do, and just getting it on the other sheet or working up something in tandem with that so it's on the same page. Because that lower stretch of Silvermine is really quite awful. And there's no overhead wires on it. And that neighborhood needs it.
Yeah, I'm sure it was probably a function of the funding. The money they got was strictly for doing the field, so they're trying to get that done with what they've got to work with, and they weren't able to do trees as part of that project. But we can go back after, like Rich said, and do it after it's completed.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's on the windscreen because a simple thing could be the maintenance entrance to that field from Silvermine might preclude, the spacing for trees. So if you dovetail together and you can space the trees, they can work an opening in the gate, work anywhere between the trees. But if they don't think about them, why? Why not just think about it together? So I don't know. I mean, maybe I still do an aerial plan, Paul. Can you get it in front of Nick and Ken?
Okay, yeah. Like you said, we'll do the planting. We can put that together once they complete the work, so that the trees don't get damaged during the construction.
Hey, that's fine, as long as they understand that it's a team tag.
Okay. Any other amendments to the minutes?
Andrew, you had some?
No, I've already given it to Delane.
Okay.
Oh, hearing no others, minutes approved as amended. All those in favor? Minutes approved as amended.
Sure, fine.
Illegal cuttings.
Okay, there's been nothing new that we've gotten over the last month. And the other two that we had from previous are still being worked on.
Okay. And next, I don't have the agenda in front of me, so help me.
That being Belden and Bel Air, right? The two Bs.
Yes.
So new plantings.
Okay, Rich had gone out and marked 151 Woodward Avenue. And it looks like there's 3 honey locust and 3 London planes that will be going in there. We'll plant those in the fall. So there's 6 trees at that location that will be going in.
Rich, we couldn't do any more along that stretch?
Actually, we can do more along that stretch. We can do a ton of trees along that stretch.
Sure.
So prior to Paul and I going out, I had a site meeting which was supposed to be the property owner. I ended up meeting with the property manager for the property owner. And the property owner, which turns out is a group of property owners, not just one, joined us on a cell phone call and was very opposed to planting any trees along the frontage of the property. And I said that we want to start retreeing the roadway, explain the whole thing. He was very apprehensive at the beginning. I said that we would offer the first half dozen trees to show him what it would look like. And then following that, because it's a big landscape project for a private property that's basically all retail space, that we would ask them to partner with us for planting the entire frontage of the property at a 1-for-1 basis. So it could probably take another 20 trees after we do the initial half dozen.
Oh, easily.
Easily.
So I asked them that if we plant 10 additional trees, that they participate in the other remaining 10. And I got a lot of pushback on that, saying that he wants to see where the trees would be located and that there's underground utilities in the area, which I concurred, which led to me and Paul going out there with site plans and staking the trees. So him and his partners are going to view the stakes where we marked where the trees would go, get back to us for approval for the first 6 trees that would be planted out of the capital budget for free. And if they agree to that and we plant them and then they like it, then we will circle back and offer forth continuing the planting scheme that you designed, Peter, for that property, basically, when you did Woodward Park. And
Yeah. So, yeah, Paul, give me the aerial. I forgot to bug you for it.
All right, I'll send that out. I'll get somebody, if I don't do it, I'll get somebody to send it out tomorrow.
I mean, I can put a box account up that you can upload to our box account, which takes large files.
Okay. Send me the email address.
Yeah, I'll do that.
so the property could accommodate approximately 25 to 30 trees. I went a little further on the spacing because of the linear footage of the property. We were at 30 feet in the park, and over there I went at 34 feet on center. And we stepped them in a little further from the curb line based on feedback from Eversource from where we planted the initial trees at Village Creek and Woodward Park, because Eversource just came through and cut down 4 more deteriorating black locusts, which needed to come down. They were all rotten and decayed. And they left 2 remaining deteriorated and black locusts that they felt weren't threatening the power lines. So we pushed the tree planting line back in to, what did it come out to, 28 feet from the curb, Paul?
It was 28 feet from the wires, which
28
is
feet from
probably
the wire.
another 10 feet or so from the curb. So it's probably close to 40 feet from the curb.
So they're all private trees on private property, which will enhance the property, enhance the neighborhood. So I'm really trying to get them to buy into replanting the entire frontage of that property, which is, well, now with the new trees being removed, almost completely barren except for 3 trees.
No, it'd be nice because I don't think we're ever going to really get trees on the other side.
You can't get trees on the other side. It's very small lots. It's
Yeah.
mostly rental properties. Lori and that group have tried the other side of the property. They get a lot of pushback. At that side's wide open and barren, so it's in need of trees. It'll really beautify the neighborhood. So I'm hoping this entices the owner and his partners to continue with the planting. It's very much a good faith gesture on the City of Norwalk and the Tree Advisory Committee. So the first 6 are on us, and the next 20 or thereabouts will be a 50-50 split, hopefully.
Good work, Rich.
We're trying.
That'll make such a difference.
It'll make a huge difference.
Yeah, huge.
And the first 6 that we staked are bordering the park, so it looks contingent with all the other work we've done in there.
Yeah.
And I consider that a gateway.
Pulled off of Village Creek, all the frontage of Woodward Park's been done. This will begin to encompass the next abutting property, and then hopefully we can work our way down the road.
But that's a real gateway in the sense that it connects the shoreline with South Norwalk.
And that's the pollinator pathway also, so
Yeah,
it's twofold.
Right.
Plus it keeps Lori and Village Creek people quite happy as well.
For now.
Everybody in that area benefits, so I'm happy to help out.
Yeah.
And I appreciate Paul making the time to come down and meet with me and review the site plans. I know he was jammed up, I was jammed up, and we were able to pull it off.
Good show.
Yeah, good.
That's
Cat Pasture Beach, the The 4 trees are planted now down there. Belden Avenue, 6 of the 10 trees have been planted, but when we talked with Olmsted, we had them stop at this point. We didn't want them to plant anymore until the fall because it's just not the proper time to plant them. So that'll be continued as soon as planting season is available for the Belden Avenue. And the same thing with the trees in Monroe Street too. Those will end up being planted.
So just for a note, that the 3 to 4 times I've checked those bags, no water in them on the gator bags.
Okay. Let me just, for the heck of it, see if Gary put that on the list, but we'll get to that a little bit later because he did send me a list of all of the watering and the maintenance work that they were doing too that I can get to a little later. Back to the trees. Andrew had sent me a whole group of them for the 4th Street area. I know he was taking on the 1st through 4th, 5th, Cove, East Norwalk area with the list that we handed out last month for the paving and sidewalks.
Well, can I report on that a little bit?
Yep.
Okay. I don't see an opportunity on Cove. We've already put some trees on Cove over the last few years, and it's well treed at this point with what we've done and what private property owners have done on their yards. I did try to get into 5th Street. It was closed. It's under they're working on the street. It's dirt right now. So I avoided that. I can do it a little later, but we may defer that to the spring. So I focused on 4th Street primarily. And I also focused on homes where they had lost trees, actual trees, significant trees had come down in the storm. Okay, so you have the lists. And Paul, I'd be happy to work with you when you go and check those locations that I've worked here on my list.
Yeah, there were 12 different locations for planting that Andrew had sent me. The paving should be done on 5th fairly soon. They reclaimed that, and we usually don't leave that open more than a couple of weeks. So that should be paved as soon as possible.
Well, I'll try to get to it if we still have time. I'd like you to inform us on what the cutoff date is. But as I recall, we each had a 10 tree quota. So I've got 12 trees in here. I wanted to note, Paul, if we don't together go and identify the locations, on 4th Street, all the trees will be planted in their yards, not on the snow shelf. Okay? Not on the snow shelf. They've all agreed to do it in their yards and there's space for them and so on. And we'll stake, I already know where the underground utilities are, yada, yada, yada. All right? So they're basically 10 canopy trees and 2 dogwoods, and I'll try to get the dogwoods replaced with a canopy tree as well. So
okay, so that was 12 right there, and then I know Cindy sent me a group of 1, 2, 3, about 10 streets that she was going to take a look at in her area.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 11 houses that I'm interested in finding out about
Wow, great.
so far.
Okay, is there a point in time when you want to get together and we can take a look at those and then walk the lots and see if they're suitable planting locations, and then we can get species and stake them? We can go do that and get that set.
Well, I thought I sent you with a list. I was hoping to get some information on contacting them.
I've got some of them, they don't have anything listed, and some of them, it looks like the owners have changed. We've got a book, but the book is about 10 years old. So it's hit or miss because some people don't allow you to put the number in, other ones you do. So we can get together and talk more about that. with the specific locations and the homeowners, and then I can give you a call back with those.
Paul, Paul, I found it useful, the letter that you and I worked on.
Yes.
You might share that with Cindy, and maybe she could just use my letter if she likes it and put in her information, and we can get that out to her, and she can put it on all the mailboxes and so on. My concern, Cindy, is going door to door this year. I've avoided interaction with people as much as possible because of the pandemic. As well, people don't like you knocking on their door, unless they know you're coming, because of the pandemic. People aren't welcoming people at their door.
I'm not sure they ever liked it.
Well, I even found signs
Yeah.
that said quarantine, do not enter premises. People are a little uptight about stuff. So this letter might be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah. That's why we're trying to get her the phone numbers too, so that she can contact the people.
Okay. Well, that'd be good. Okay.
Yep.
That's all I want to say.
Question, because I don't know how this works with the city. I know normally if we put things in mailboxes, it could be considered a crime. If anybody.
Yes.
Actually, it is.
It is. And
Wow.
technically, when we do paving notices, we do not put them in the mailbox at all. We either leave them in the door or someplace else, but we tell people do not put them in the mailbox.
Okay, so that's my next question. So
I
wouldn't
wasn't fearful.
mailbox.
I wasn't afraid of incarceration. That's for sure.
No, we've had a problem in Silvermine. We don't put anything in the mailboxes.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
we've been snagged.
Guys, can we just actually mail them so that they arrive in the mailbox legally?
We could do that too.
That's so much easier than having one person drive around to 10 different residences and try to figure out where to leave something that they may or may not see.
We could just mail them.
Yeah, if you have the names
Yeah.
of the property owners, that's fine.
We can get. We've
Okay.
got them.
Okay.
So I'll work with you, Cindy. I'll touch base with you in the next few days or so, and we can come up with that.
all right, great, thanks.
And then Rich had his 6 trees and locations there. So Cindy, Rich, Andrew, and that's where we're at with the tree planting for the fall.
And Paul, remind me again of what our target for tree planting, number of trees this fall.
Now we're trying
on
to
the
get,
budget.
if we could get 30 to 40 of them, it would be good.
So just on the side, I've got the Wall Street Business Association pressing the property owner for People's Bank to put 4 to 5 trees across the front at their independent cost. So that they're pushing to see that the gentleman gets some trees in. So as good natured that it might be.
Excuse me, Peter, so they're doing it themselves, it's not part of the city program? Is that right?
Correct. At this
Okay.
moment, I've got the Wall Street Business Association sort of pressing to make some, private investment downtown in the nature of trees. So we'll see if that actually happens.
So when they do that, does the city give the tree supplier specifics on planting requirements and so on?
So basically, I would give them the planting details independently of the city, if you will, unless you want me to give it to them from the city. Yeah. It's the same
a
planting.
private project, and really, the city would have no involvement in it. But if it's
Right.
in the right of way, they have to get a permit to put them in. So just make sure they're on the private property. Saves them having to technically get a permit.
So between you and I, the sidewalk in front of People's Bank, how much is right of way?
I'd have to check.
It would be worth checking because I don't want to press this gentleman and turn around and tell him he's got to get a permit because it's not going to fly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, especially being I know who it is.
Exactly. Now, if he's willing to put in 5 trees at his cost, why not? So if you tell me I need 3 more feet in when I stake them, I need to know.
All right, we can get that information for you.
It'd be better if I knew that up going in because why lose 5 trees?
Down in that area, it's probably the back of sidewalk, but I'd like to confirm that.
That'd be good. It's like a 10-foot sidewalk. It's pretty good.
Do you have any other locations, Peter?
No, I've just been pressing on the Silvermine one and Belden here.
Paul, are you available tomorrow to talk? I don't want to take people's time here, but I have some questions on some of these locations.
We can talk tomorrow afternoon. We'll touch base.
Can I talk to you late? I have a commitment at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean 5:30 is fine. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. We'll do.
So as we submit the final tallies and we get tree planting agreements from people for the fall planting to Paul as the point person for Olmsted, Paul, if we don't hit that quota with this list, we have the list of sidewalk and paving projects. We
Yes.
continue to go back out. Oh, I'd like to get 30 or 40 trees in as well, but if we come up less than that, even with the ones that got deferred from spring to be added to that, because they're out of the spring budget, basically.
Yeah.
Let's, for the next meeting, we can add like a second round to get to that number if we come up short, but Andrew did a great job. I think
No, yeah, you guys.
18.
Well, the thing I'm most excited about is that based on Erica's suggestion, I got what I call a neighborhood tree liaison officer.
Right.
And she will represent all the numbered streets and Marvin Beach, that whole area. And she's dynamite.
We have a name.
Yeah, she's an architect. Her name is Nancy Lobus. She has a architecture practice in Westport, and so she did a lot of the work with me on 4th Street with all her neighbors.
Okay. Well,
So,
We may have a job for her if we need more trees for the fall, really get her jump started.
Oh yeah, and she's so Erica, are you there? Is she available?
She's muted.
Okay, Erica, can she hear? Can you hear? Yes.
Yes, I can hear.
Oh, okay. So Erica, I think we need to put together maybe a sheet on what are the roles and responsibilities of a neighborhood liaison officer.
Don't we already have that?
I agree.
I
think that-
might have that. Yeah, I can take a look
I
in
think we have
past
that.
information, and we might already have it.
Okay, could you shoot it to me and I'll look at it and maybe send it to Erica as well? I mean, whoever's interested in it. And we'll get that down, and I'll put a welcome to Nancy from us with that sheet. Make sense?
Yeah, let me dig that out because we have that in the file cabinet from previous times. And I think we also had information from when we had them at the tree festivals when we were trying to recruit liaisons. So I can dig that information out of the files.
So what other communities do you want to do? What about Silvermine? Peter, can you get a neighborhood liaison officer, or is that you?
Actually, I was thinking there was a gentleman, I think his name was Mike Masson, that came to one of the meetings. And
Right.
he was sort of willing and able.
Yeah, I
I don't remember
remember.
if we can contact him.
Do you have his contact information?
I don't, unless he showed up. He showed up at one meeting. I don't know if we have that. We could probably dig it up.
Okay, if you could, that'd be great. And I'll
And for Silvermine, it would be more canopy management.
Oh, well, I don't. And I'll contact Alan Broadbent, who lives in Cranberry area, and ask him to suggest somebody for Cranberry. Does that make sense, Erica?
Absolutely. I think it's really important for us to have as many boots on the ground as possible. You know, when we make contact with people and ask them about plantings, we can also get a sense on how interested they might be in making that a little more formal. Paul, if you have a list, we definitely like to see it. Maybe we can spiff it up a little bit and be able to hand it out to people as part of recruitment. I think it'd be really great to have, you know, a group of Lauries, you know, people who are passionate and involved and are really, you know, have their eyes and ears into everything that's happening in their neighborhood. And even if there's a neighborhood, you know, Peter, that you were saying is more of a canopy issue, you know, these people can let us know we saw Eversource trucks and they were pruning. Do you guys know about it? We saw somebody taking down a tree. Do you guys know about it? So it's just, it's impossible for us to be in all places at all times, and increasing or bulking up our, kind of team of liaisons, I think is really important. I don't know if it's part of the city that the name is a tree liaison. We might want to think of like kind of like a cooler name.
Yeah,
I was
we
thinking that.
could call it like the neighborhood tree liaisons, because they were the ones in the local neighborhood versus actual tree advisory committee members.
Right.
Yeah, because it helps get other volunteers.
One of the things too is we've got somebody possibly from down in the Flax Hill, Highland Avenue area too. Is we might have Rob again too, but I'm not really talking about Rob. Rob is back in town for a while, he said recently. But when we had the Arbor Day down at Brookside Elementary School, I had talked with Sandra Fios the other day, and Sandra is trying to get someone for the Tree Alliance, but we can also use this person as a tree liaison in that area too. So she's trying to recruit the person that was involved with the parent association over at Brookside Elementary School, and she's still there. And if we can get her back involved, we'll have another one there too.
Great. And that actually brings me to a question for you, Rich.
Yeah.
How successful do you think you're kind of searching for a junior arborist or something? Do you have someone in mind,
Not
or are you
as
still
of
kind
yet,
of
with
feeling
the,
people out?
With the storm coming, everybody seems to be a bit inundated. So maybe after subsiding from the storm and things get back to normal, I may have a little better success. But right now, nothing, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Regards to tree liaisons and the study that was done for Norwalk, the area like for Norwalk that really needs trees is the more commercial areas like South Norwalk, where it's mostly commercial properties or rental properties.
Well, I think
again,
Main Street and Norwalk needs it too, Rich. I mean, that whole area I walked through last time by the cemetery there, that's very void of trees.
Yeah, those are the areas we got to target, the hot spots in Norwalk, and that's where it's hard to get like neighborhood participation, because if you have a bunch.
Well, then, yeah, if I can just kind of interject, maybe if those are more commercial areas, maybe it makes sense to look for a business owner that can act in that capacity instead of a resident.
Agreed.
And is there any way, is there any Chamber of Commerce or street association that you contact and say, could you assign a member of that? Because if they're already motivated and part of a business organization like a street association or
Chamber of Commerce might be.
Yeah.
Great idea. It's a great idea. Yeah, I think that might be the way to go. So when we get this list of what the attributes are for this role, Paul, I think we can, kind of, like I said, spiff it up, and then maybe, send a copy over to the Chamber of Commerce as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
Sorry.
get the definition or the responsibilities out from when we had the old list, and then that combined with the list that we had with the neighborhood association map, that's going to have to be updated. The map will be fine, but the actual list of people will have to be updated because there's several of them that are no longer around or in this area.
I wonder if there's someone in Broad River as well, that Broad River Community Association, that might, because that's another sort of hole in the tree canopy. And I think those homes are fairly well, owner occupied. It's, just driving through, I get the sense they are definitely owner occupied.
By the way, onto that, Paul, I did go to Center Street.
Okay.
Off Main, and there's no street improvement work done yet.
No, there isn't. They haven't started yet.
And it was a little scary for me to go there because it's, no, I mean it, because those look like rental properties, not property. And you know, I don't want to go knocking on doors. So, so I put that off.
Okay. Yeah, we can hold off on that for now.
Okay. When I did talk to our new neighborhood tree liaison officer for 4th Street and Marvin Beach and so on, I asked Nancy if she'd be interested in coming to one of our meetings, whether Zoom or when we do actually have. She said she would. So
Good. Okay.
so so I think that's you know, might as well invite them to come to a meeting at some point. Okay.
Hang on.
Okay. The maintenance.
Hello, hang on.
Well, I think that takes care of development for fall 2020.
Okay, we'll get you your aerials, Peter. I'll get in touch with you, Cindy, with the list of information that we got to get you. And I'll get the tree liaison definitions and the list out and send that out to everybody.
So
Tree maintenance, Gary had sent me the information today, and he said that they've continued to do work watering for the Fodor Farm. He's got the area down in see, I'm flipping through some of the areas that he sent me. Quite a few of these now. He's got the area down in Broad Street that he said that they did back in July. He's got Highland Avenue areas done. So he's got some of the newer ones that have been planted that they have been watering. And I know, Peter, you said that there were some bags that were empty. I can talk with him about that again. And he is still putting together a package of the soil amendments and the proposal and the costs for the Fodor Farm trees that we talked about.
Okay.
Check with him, Paul. The ones on Broad Street didn't get watered for quite a while, and then some gator bags showed up on them. But I think
Okay.
it may have been too late, and I don't think they're going to make it if you can revisit those.
Last time they were watered was on the 17th of July, supposedly.
Yeah, but I think that might also have been the first or second time they got watered as well.
Okay. All right. So I'll mention that to him.
Did you check the 2 trees, the lindens we planted last year on Gregory, the last towards cemetery?
They had, they're on the list here.
They look pretty, they look a little, they're looking more like scarecrows all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Supposedly those were watered back on the end of July.
Okay.
So it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since they were watered. Yeah, he's got that stuff as labeled as 731. So, all right, I'll mention those to him again too.
Guys, I'm gonna sign off soon. I have no power. I'm using my cell phone to join this meeting, which is on fumes, and I don't want to be left without any way to communicate with my husband or anyone else. So,
Start the car.
I'm gonna bow. Yeah,
Start the car, charge the phone.
Yeah, exactly. I'll drive around town and try to charge my phone. I just got a text message from Eversource saying that power is out, which, you know, I'm well aware of. And absolutely no time frame for which it's going to come on. We do have a generator, but my husband disconnected it before he left for work today because we had just lost power for yesterday up until 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And so we just went through this, disconnected the generator, and I am embarrassed to say I have no idea how to reconnect it. So I have to wait for him to come home, and until then I have no power and no way to charge. Does anybody have any questions or anything for me? I think I already mentioned the liaisons, which is what I wanted to talk about.
I think we're in good shape. I don't have anything, Erica.
Yeah, that's the
Okay,
next item. I
right.
think we're in good
Good
shape.
luck, Erica.
Good luck.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
That's
No
okay.
problem.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, so with as Erica's signing off, the neighborhood tree liaison, so the thing is dig up that list of
Yep.
possibilities, and then I think contacting the Chamber of Commerce so we can solicit some of those commercial sites, particularly like the South Norwalk area that's really barren of trees, and it's a real challenge. Like Washington Park was a great opportunity for us to get trees in there because that's a city-owned park. And then we also got the grant, so it was twofold. But, you know, like Woodward Avenue, where we're working with 151 or attempting to work with them,
That matters. That's good.
it makes a big difference, and we don't have neighborhood associations down there per se, and it's a lot of rental properties, so we got to take a different route, and it might be Chamber of Commerce, like Erica said.
Okay.
They work well.
I mean, I still think Wilton Street or Wilson Street, Rich?
Wilson,
That's a good candidate, but it's in
it's
the
a great
verge.
candidate.
We would have, but Paul, we would have to stripe parking on there because car doors will knock the hell out of those trees unless
That's right.
unless the
I
parking
don't think
space
you can
doesn't-
do that in that neighborhood, because if you ever go down that neighborhood when everybody's home, parking is difficult as it is.
Well, it's street parking. I mean, it's difficult, but if you stripe it, then you can get the trees in between the spaces. I'm afraid if you don't do that, the car doors are going to knock them over time. That's what I'm afraid of most.
Well, one of the things we just have to be careful of with the parking spaces is that the street is wide enough to handle the 2 lanes of traffic plus the parking space too.
So your
And
issue is if it goes to authorized parking. Right now,
then-
it's not authorized. Then.
Well, if you put stripes on the road, it becomes authorized. And the thing is the traffic authority technically has to approve it being striped, or if you're going to put up a no parking sign and something that doesn't have anything now, it has to be approved by the traffic authority too. So we just
So
have
the alternative would be to put in bollards or, 2 wood posts by each tree. That would add cost. But in the 12 years that it takes for those to rot, the tree will be big enough where it doesn't matter. It's the first 10 years of that tree getting hit.
we have to be careful about putting stuff that technically is not a breakaway connection a foot off the street line too.
Yeah.
We have to be careful about that because there's
Look at
there's
these yellow
rules.
bananas that we got over here on Wall Street for the reverse angle parking. That looks like a goddamn loading dock. How about those? So I couldn't resist.
You helped with the design of that, didn't you, Peter?
I hate those bananas. There's no reason for them.
So we got to be careful when they put the stuff in though, like that. So we'd have to take a look at it and really look at it before we just go put 4x4s along the side of the street.
Yeah, no, it's just it may be breakaway, but that would be the alternative to striping, because it sounds like designated parking spaces are going to be a long haul.
And it would have to be
Tough
approved by the
neighborhood.
traffic authority.
It's mostly rental properties down there primarily. And the snow shelf, there is a snow shelf there. It's very narrow. And most of the trees have succumbed because of the limited root space. And I know it's caused some damage to sidewalks down there. And I don't think that's bona fide parking, as Paul said. So I think once you get into striping it and laying out like tree locations, it opens up a whole nother can of worms.
There's nothing in the properties behind the sidewalk
There is, if you can get property owners
to agree to it.
and agree to it, which is hard. They would all have to be pretty much on private property, but very small front yards. The houses are pretty tight to the street. But they
Okay.
can accommodate trees. That may be an example for Andrew's letter or a version of it, and just leave behinds, especially with the pandemic.
Okay.
So next, tree advisory, tree alliance update, Andrew?
Yeah, sort of. I have 2 down there. One is the tree planting efforts. So not only this fall am I doing the tree advisory committee stuff, but it's time to give last spring's tree lottery winners their trees. So this coming week, I'm going to start contacting them actually Friday. But this coming week, I hope to meet with them and offer them trees. And I'm going to be working with Tom Arborist, who's going to be taking over my responsibilities with 3rd Taxing District for NTA. So I'm going to be teaming with him. So he'll take it over for next spring, hopefully. And I'll just advise next spring on that. I need to go to the tree nursery. What is the name of it? I'm sorry, Corville's, and see what trees they have available. Have you been there at all, Rich, this recently?
I have. Most of their smaller containerized trees are kind of picked through. They
Oh dear.
still have some. I don't know. What's the quantity you're doing? 14, 12?
12.
Well, you should be okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take a look at them. If not, then I'll either ask them to bring in more trees. It's kind of late in the season, isn't it?
Kind of late in the
It'll
season.
be
Although
picking up again.
containerized trees, they can bring in if they know that they're going to be, they have a buyer.
All right. So I'm
Given
going
the way the weather's been so hot, Andrew,
Yeah.
the quality of those trees, I question. It's
Okay.
been very hot.
All right. Anyway, I'll take care of that. And if I need any advice, Rich, I'll go to you. Maybe alternative sources and so on. Okay. And then the other number 2 I have is Board of Directors realignment. Alan that's his responsibility as president. I think he's realizing that he needs to do a little recruiting. So that's what I'm staying on the board. I know, Rich, you've left it. I understand that. Everybody does. And but he needs to recruit and get some more people on. Okay.
And the lady that I mentioned from Brookside Elementary School, from the Parent Association, from when we had Arbor Day over there, Sandra Fios is going to try and recruit the lady that helped out for a board member possibly at the Tree Alliance. So we're working on that together.
Now, is that the woman that helped select a tree that we put in at Brookside a few years ago for Arbor Day?
Yes.
Okay. As I recall, she's in the business, or she's a
Landscape architect, I think.
Yeah. I think that's what. Yeah.
So we were trying to get her to see if she would be interested in being on the board. I asked Sandra right now if she would be interested in being on the board. And Sandra had said that she's doing a doctorate program right now. So she's pretty busy. But she said at some point she might be interested in being on the board.
That's great.
So,
Thank you very much for doing that. Thanks. That's a lot. That's great. It's amazing what you can do in the parking lot.
yeah.
Okay, that's it for the NTA.
Andrew, are you still working on 6th Taxing District for plantings also?
I'm sorry. I'm not working on it, but Alan's taken charge of that. I think for 2 reasons. He's interested in Row-Ayton, and he has a number of clients in Row-Ayton because it's sort of a Tony neighborhood that can afford to have landscape architects, if you know what I mean. So he's doing that, and I don't know how he's soliciting interested property owners for tree planting and so on, or what his plan is, but I'm sure he'll do it, and it'll be different. It won't be a lottery. 6 taxing districts would not like the idea of a lottery, so I don't know how they're recruiting or soliciting, but they have a plan, and they're not going to be planting until the spring.
Okay. One thing I'll mention, and Andrew had brought up Tom Arborist. Tom had sent an email requesting that some of the trees be replaced at the corners of the Straffolino Bridge that we had planted. One of the things that when I talked with Nick Roberts again about that is there's going to be some stuff going on over there in the next couple of years related to Walk Bridge, the realignment of the entrance of Betts Park. So if we were to plant now, they're probably going to end up getting destroyed between the various projects. So I was going to let Tom know, and I talked with Nick, it would probably not be a good idea to replace those now. Wait until those projects are completed and then do it.
Have you talked to
The
Tom?
problem is they'll be dead. The problem is
Yeah.
they'll be dead. The
Have
question,
you-
I mean, seriously, Paul, do we not know the impact on the corners at this point?
Yeah,
Because that bridge is
it's
not
going to be in
changing.
those areas. That's why I'm saying that it's not a wise idea to plant in those areas now.
Right.
But do we know the impacts? I mean, those are abutments. How much can they be affecting those 4 abutments? I mean, the fact that they're not moving the bridge, right?
They're not moving the Straffolino Bridge, but they're going to be realigning the entrance to Vets Park. And as they do that, it's going to be over in that area where we would be planting or close to it,
So,
in which case,
the only 3 trees that are there now are on the corner of Vets Park. The only
Right.
3 that are surviving are the corner of Vets Park. They already
Right.
exist.
on the other side, there's going to be areas where there will be driving equipment up on the sides there, as well as the other 2 sides on the west side of the bridge. So doing stuff there now is not a good idea.
Hey, Paul, wasn't Eversource come up with a proposal to do these large towers, electrical towers, utility towers or something? What's the status of that? I saw a few options, and I think the city told them nothing was acceptable to go back and
We wanted them to do some underground work, and that's still being discussed back and forth. I'm not involved in that on a day-to-day basis, so I'd have to check with somebody in
but
the
that
office.
whole area is going to be, excuse my language, since we're recorded, it's going to be
Bleep,
Gonna be messed up for a
going to be
while.
affected. It's going to
Affected.
be adversely affected.
It'll
Yes.
be impacted.
Impact.
there will be a variety of impacts that would definitely be negative to trees.
Yeah, so I just bring, if you want to, I'll talk to Tom. I have to talk to him in the next couple of days anyway about the Tree Alliance work. Do you want me to mention that you?
If you'd like, yeah, you can mention it.
Yeah, just to save you that phone call, because he reached out to me as well.
Yeah, those trees have been in them, what, 8 years or so?
I'd have to look, but it could be
I mean, that's
that.
how long it takes them to actually have presence.
So
Okay. Is there anything else?
But the rendering of the overhead wires that Paul showed us for Walk Bridge crossing the harbor, I don't know, that was over a year ago, for Eversource, looked pretty horrendous.
They're horrendous.
Horrendous.
And
So going
I know-
underground, I think it was a horizontal drill from Vets Park to Water Street, correct?
yes, over in that area, yes. And there's
I
been
know
some
it
talk.
costs Eversource a lot more, but those are permanent overhead wires once they string them, so.
Yeah,
I
Let's
think
make Norwalk uglier.
we need to
Let's-
put them
let's
under
do it.
the harbor.
I mean,
that's
the
why
bridge
there
itself
was
is not entirely
back
pretty.
and forth. I know the Harbor Commission had some questions about it, Shellfish Commission. So they were doing different conversations about that and trying to determine what the final layout was going to be. So, and I think that's still being worked on.
Yeah, nobody wants them in their neighborhood, but everybody wants a good solution.
Everybody needs the power, like Erica.
Are we moving on to other business?
This is
Was
kind
at
of
the
other
beginning
That's
of
what
the-
I did. So I just throw this into the ring. A few people have come up to me. I know Tina Duncan sent an article to a colleague on the Tree Alliance about why doesn't Connecticut more actively bury wires? And this was after, of course, the tropical storm, Isis, or whatever it's called.
I say is.
Yeah, should we, thank you. Should we have a point of view on that? I mean, I know it always comes down to cost. Having a program of burying wires like they do all over Europe and other parts of the country.
I mean, obviously, I would think the tree advisory committee would like to see them buried underground, as long as the work to do it isn't cutting trees down, because then the maintenance of the wires is not going to have nearly as much of an impact on the trees long term. But the money to do it is a lot of capital money up front to do it.
$1 million a mile. That's the number we used to use.
It's a lot.
$1
My
million a mile.
personal opinion is I saw thousands and thousands of healthy trees get cut down since they started the enhanced
Yes, you did.
They were mandated by the governor from Irene and Sandy as a result of that. And we just witnessed that after cutting thousands of healthy trees down, we had more outages during Isaias than we did.
Ever.
That would actually be a very good article to see written, Rich, because that's actually very true.
It's very
Silvermine
true.
in the 25 years I've been in Silvermine, there were a handful of trees down and not anything near Sandy or Irene. Irene was devastating as well.
It
Not
was.
that much, and still we lost power for that long a time. We'll figure.
Yeah. I know on my street, I had no power for 10 days and I just got internet back this past Monday. So I'm all for putting them underground.
So the long-term investment underground makes sense. The question is, what's the strategy for it?
It's a long-term investment. It's a huge upfront cost and it's a huge project, but long-term it pays off.
But we're willing to upgrade. But we're willing to upgrade all the poles on Comstock Hill up into New Canaan for a resilient line and not invest in underground backup.
Well, the utilities got to be forced to make the investment underground. And I think what it's going to come down to with all the public outcry, which has already started. If you go on like Patch and you read everything that the mayors have written about all the outages in the communities, and they put in their 2 cents about how, we have one single utility company and it's a monopoly and there's no competition. And we have the highest utility rates in the country and we're at their mercy. And here, once again, they charge us when they cut all these trees down because their maintenance costs go up and then we don't get any better results. So.
One of the things too is it was all over, although I didn't lose power here in Bethel. The first selectman even called, and there were the robocall update calls that they make, and he said he was extremely disappointed in Eversource's response. And that was kind of his words on the messages, extremely disappointed. And I've never gotten a call like that before with those kind of words used. So it seems like Eversource is going to have a lot of answering to do.
On today's paper, they're crying they didn't make any money. They're setting themselves up to protect themselves. So today's headline, look at it. We lost $124 million.
Well, the CEO makes $12.5 million a year and got a $3 million bonus.
I'm with you. I'm with you, but they're going to start working.
It was 16 and a half and a $3 million. So he ended up at $19.5 million last year.
Remuneration for a year?
1 year.
All right, guys, you got me for like 5 minutes.
One other thing that I was going to mention too is, as far as some of the issues that we've seen related to the trees for utilities, we've had a lot of calls lately related to solar power. And I know we talked a year or so ago about the solar power and the effect that it could have on trees. And we've seen a lot of people asking more questions about it. And we're going to have to make sure that we're very diligent about the potential effects of the tree canopy, because, once, and Peter, you mentioned this, once they start getting that and getting the setup, then they want to cut the trees down so that the sun hits the panels.
So what we need to develop a policy. We started 2 years ago. We need a solar panel policy.
Yeah, well, you initiated that. I thought that was good. Well, yeah.
Something we want to put on the list to continue with.
Yeah, no, it's going to come to the forefront.
I mean, I told you I planted we planted 2 red maples on Waller Street, that goes from Strawberry Hill to Post Road. And a year after we planted those 2 trees in the small house, they put solar panels up. At some point, they're going to want to cut down those red maples. I can just see it happening. Anyway.
I know they are. All right.
Okay.
So we should write a policy on that, and my knee-jerk reaction take on it is, if you're thinking about installing solar panels on your property and you don't have the space to manage the sun trajectory within your property lines, you should really reconsider it. It's no different than putting a satellite dish TV on your roof and knowing that your neighbor's tree is in the trajectory of the angle the dish has.
Well, the policy states that you're not able to affect city trees. You can do whatever
No.
you want on your property.
If somebody were to come in today and request a permit to cut down a city tree because of that, I would probably turn them down. Unless somebody really had an extreme reason or we were told to, I would turn them away and say
Well,
that's not happening.
Don't you need a permit to put solar panels on your house? Is there some city permit that is required?
I believe a building permit.
You need a building permit. So shouldn't whatever comment we make go to the building department so that they have put a notice, so anybody who has that, they have that in hand? I mean, you got to give them notice, otherwise, you know.
So, well, where do we put a policy in place where that permit has to respond to it?
Well, what we can do is I can talk with Bill Ireland, the Director of Code Enforcement, and just ask, as they do now with storm sanitary sewer lines, if they've got somebody coming in to do a connection for a plumbing connection, a permit on the property, they check with Public Works, WPCA. We could see if they would do the same related to the solar panels, in which case ask for a sign off from Public Works. And at that point, then we could
It
say,
triggers
by the
us.
way, you're not going to be able to cut the trees in the city right of way down to do this. Is this what you really want to do?
Yeah, but we do have to, we do have to have a policy so it's defensible.
Paul, does that need to be run by the legal department if we draft a letter on behalf of the tree advisory committee?
I would definitely think that we would want to do that, and I would strongly advise it just to make sure anything we do is defendable in court if it ever had to come to that.
Peter, can
Check
you
with the
put some
legal
more-
department so we can begin drafting a letter for building permits?
I can talk with the Corporation Counsel's office. We talk with them on a regular basis, so I can talk with them about that.
Peter,
Yeah,
do you want to draft it?
No, let me start looking at a policy,
Okay.
because I think that's more useful, because you're going to have to back it up with something.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
and that's it, exactly. It's got to be backed up with
It can't be
something, and
aesthetic.
it's got to be defendable in court too. Right now, we could say we're not going to let anybody cut a healthy tree down for it, and that's defendable because we have the tree ordinance.
Well, I think that the argument could be that the trees benefit the entire overall community and the solar panels primarily benefit an individual.
Exactly.
Except they feed the grid, Rich. Now they feed the grid, which feeds the common populace.
Well,
Yeah.
there's arguments that
I'm with you, but that's what they're doing. They're feeding it back in to reduce the overall demand.
Well, that's going to have to be our standpoint.
It's my story. I'm sticking to it. So.
Yeah, that's my story. I'm sticking to.
All right, keep on me for this, because I had pulled the information 2 years ago, and it's just sitting here.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, I know we're past our 7 o'clock deadline, but if that concludes everything, I'll adjourn the meeting and thank everybody for visually chiming in.
Very good.
Thanks all.
Okay.
I'll
Take
give you a
care.
call tomorrow late.
Well, remind me to give you a box to upload those aerials.
Yes, send that to me.
All right.
Have a good night.
Okay,
No.
thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good
Good night.
evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jeff.
No problem. Bye.